Welcome in, everybody. Let's get our Facebook folks up in here before it's time to go. Ooh, new logo on the one of the ones there. Nice. Boom, boom. All right, guys, welcome in. It is Tuesday morning, July 19th, 7:30 a.m. on the dot. And that means it's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell and joined by, as always, Scott Kennedy. Scott, how are things down there, out there in Georgia?
Things are good. Things are good here in the dirty South. So I always say, you don't have much of a Southern accent. I say I usually only put on a Southern accent when I'm talking college football because we play football in the South. So
Yeah.
things are good in this neck of the woods. Looking forward to kicking off another week with Broncos for breakfast.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about kicking it off, £100 out of the gate. Ethan saying, "Good afternoon, Jensen Broncos country. Gonna miss the show today, but we'll catch it later." Ethan is typically our closer, but he is the opener today for us. So thank you so much, Ethan, and hopefully we'll have plenty of Josie Jewel love for you in this episode, so you can have the warm fuzzies when you come back and listen later.
Yeah, thank you for the support, man. It's really it's unbelievable. It's just truly what you do for the show and how you make it viable for us. I mean, it's great. So
Yep.
no other words, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, truly. Ethan's been, a lot of people kind of come and go, hot and cold at some points, but Ethan's been really consistent with the support. So we appreciate it anytime, anywhere, but crazy how much Ethan supports. So shout out to you, buddy. Also, Jeremy coming in. Good morning, fellas at Broncos for Breakfast. Good to see you. We have Mike Gibbons in the house, too. Good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. And Jeremy coming in saying, hot Atlanta, hot everywhere. Not hot in Seattle right now. I want to say that
it's been okay. It's been okay down here. We've had we had a week in June where it was knocking on 100 degrees, which isn't normal for here. I mean, it's muggy. It's like 92 with 90% humidity. That's fairly normal and it's miserable, but it was 100 with 92% humidity. And it's like that maybe happens once every couple of years and never in June, usually in August. So it backed off of that. So good storm last night, plenty of rain. Everything's growing here like a freaking rainforest. So it's kind of nice. I like it.
It is a nice 60 degrees in Seattle right now. It's going to get a little bit warmer. I'm all the way up to 75 today. We got some heat coming next week, they say. But luckily, after the last time we had that heat wave last year was the end of June, where it got up to 114 here, which is unbelievable because the houses are built to retain heat here because it never gets that hot and nobody has air conditioning. So that was that was hell.
We're checking into hotels or we're leaving.
Yeah,
we're leaving for a couple of days and coming back. It's like 114. I've told you before, the first time I went out west was during a heat wave. The Santa Anas blow west while LA's weather is so nice is because the ocean's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And when the weather's coming in, here's your weather update for the day, everybody. When the weather's coming in over the ocean, it's 70 degrees, despite the fact that you're living in a desert. Mm-hmm. And the mountains hold that in. That's why this stuff on the other side of the mountains is not nearly as expensive as this because it's a desert. It's Death Valley. Well, every once in a while, the winds come the other direction and it becomes 105 degrees. And my first time out there, it was one of those like that. And I was like, dry heat. I didn't know what the people, you always hear that. Oh, it's a dry heat. I'm like, dry heat my ass. This is hot.
Yeah.
This is hot. 105's hot. I don't care if it's a dry heat or not. And 114, it doesn't matter where you are. That's unpleasant.
Yeah, not good. Luckily, we were in a rental house and had a basement, so we just lived in the basement for 3 or 4 days. It was still like 88 in the house in the basement. Yep, me too. Right now, we're both the basement boys coming at you for breakfast. But we appreciate you. We got sunny days in the house with the coffee in the heart and the sun coming in. Good to see you, sunny days. US Dave's in the house also. Dave Glassman over on YouTube. Jeremy's saying 90s today in Denver. Ugh. Woof. It's way too hot. Dave Glassman saying 106 forecast today in ICT. Not sure the heat index. No, thank you. Sounds miserable. Jamal Killing's coming in. Good morning, Broncos country. Rob, the Bucks bomb, always coming in saying good morning from Nashville. Nick and Scott. We always, hype up Nashville when we're in here. I've only been in Nashville twice, but both times I've been there, I ate at a barbecue place called the Peg Leg Porker. And they had some of the best dry rub ribs I've ever had. So shout out to them. Really good time. We got Kathy in here as well saying good morning. Oh, and Ethan, again, still hanging around saying no AC in UK on record-breaking day. Man, this is crazy. Man, yeah, it's it sucks, man. Europe right now is very much on fire, literally. I don't know if you've seen the videos coming out from Spain, but it's pretty horrifying stuff.
And Rob coming in, saying thank you for the recommendation on Peter Pan honey peanut butter, so tasty. You won't go wrong. I mean, except for the fact that it's addictive as hell. My brother-in-law sent me a text with a picture of like an empty jar. It said like, "Damn you, Scott Kennedy!" Like, I'm telling you, man. You know, it sounds so simple. Oh, peanut butter and jelly. It is freaking good. If you like peanut butter at all, that Peter Pan honey peanut butter is unbelievable. And yes, I'm going to clip this and send them to him and say, "Send me some peanut butter."
I guess
I don't want. I have to ban it from my house. Honestly, I put on £1 a week if that stuff is in my house. £1 a week, because peanut butter and jellies don't really fill you up that much, but they're full of calories.
Yeah.
So you're like still snacking again in an hour. Yeah. So it's like doubling up. But yes, it's delicious. Good stuff. Glad you like it, Rob.
Peanut butter and jelly is great backpacking, great hiking food. You take a little sandwich. We discovered something called Buddy Butter, which is like a low sugar peanut butter for dogs. And Summit, my dog, absolutely goes bonkers for it. They have a peanut butter banana one and like a peanut butter blueberry one. Absolutely freaks out. So good. So Buddy Butter, get us some money too.
And you put it on the roof of a dog's mouth.
Yeah. Yep. This is a very pro dog show. EJ coming in saying, "Good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country." Herb Davis, always good to see you. Herb says, "Good morning, guys. It's been a minute." It has, but I remember you, Herb. Hope you're doing well. It says, in from Pennsylvania out there. Pennsylvania, big state, beautiful state to drive through. Kathy also saying 52 in her house, and Scott's getting people Peter Pan hooks in people. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what you want. That's a good one. Well, guys, we're going to talk a little bit of Patrick Surtain today, and I saw a tweet that I thought was worth digging into, because we talked about, how good Patrick Surtain was last season, but this data really, I guess, emphasizes just how good Patrick Surtain was last year. First, we want to say hello to Mark Schrader, though. Good morning, guys, from Mark over on Facebook. Hope you're doing well, Mark. But back to it. A statistic that we like to talk on here a lot, and I'll be the first to say, I'm a big stats guy, listeners and Scott, but there is no such thing as a perfect, all-encompassing stat in football, because it's just way too complicated. Mm-hmm. There's way too much going on. You doing your job relies on 10 other guys doing their job. The quality of the opponent, you can do everything right, and the other team's wide receiver and quarterback can make a perfect play, and you lose. I mean, it's hard. So any statistic is always, not a complete picture. It's part of the picture, but it's not a complete picture. So stat I'm talking about here, EPA per play, expected points allowed. And this is from Seth Walder over on, he works for ESPN, and I'll share this tweet here real quick so it's easier to see. 1 second, folks. Where's share? There we go. Chrome view. There we go. Best EPA.
I've got it if you're ready. If you want me to bring it up.
I already got it.
Okay.
Hopefully you guys can see that. I'll zoom in a little bit too. But yeah, Seth Walder always does good work over at ESPN. And here he is with his tweet saying, a best total EPA allowed among outside corners in a rookie season since 2016 via nearest defender data from NFL Next Gen Stats. Patrick Surtain coming in number 1 overall. Patrick Surtain second in last season with a negative 21.8. Then Denzel Ward 2018 with negative 18. Marlon Humphrey negative 8.7 in 2017. Tre'Davious White 2017 negative 8.5. And Marshawn Lattimore 2017 negative 7.7. So Patrick Surtain really, really stands out there as a phenomenal rookie season last year, and using the nearest defender data as using GPS data between players. So I guess we want to come back here again and just praise how good the Patrick Surtain selection was. I know that, I definitely lamented it because of the quarterback position. Until you have one, you're nothing in the NFL. But things look really good at this point in time for George Paton and the Broncos with the Patrick Surtain selection.
No, and there's a lot of things that Nick and I that I think we bounce off each other and we can learn from each other and all those type of things. And one of the phrases I was taught at an early age in scouting from was, it's not the players you miss on that kill you. It's the players that you get that can't play. If you keep loading your roster with good players over the long run, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And Pat Surtain was a really, really good player. Now, the first thing I just did when I looked at this number, Nick, was, well, one, I mean, it's a huge drop off from Ward to Humphrey. So that's pretty good for rookie seasons. Those are, two 2 really good rookie seasons. And then wait a minute, didn't Denzel Ward just sign a contract extension?
A massive one.
A massive one. So 5 years, $100.5 million for Denzel Ward. So Pat Surtain is a cheat code right now. He's cost controlled for several years, actually. But, you want to have a guy like that for 12 years. You want to have him for several years. So come year 3, that extension might end up costing a pretty penny. And, again, you can come up. There's ways to keep there's ways to keep your own guys for sure, to manipulate the cap if you got cash on hand and changing some contracts around. The key to that is making sure that they can still play. When you've got guys that are on $20 million dead cap hits that are then declining, that's when you're in trouble. That's when the cap actually matters.
Yep.
When you can pay whatever you want to your best players, then that's when people say, well, the cap doesn't matter. They just gave this guy a massive contract. Wait till he starts falling down the notch a little bit and he's not playing up to that same level.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. Pat Surtain's what, 22?
23
years old maybe?
Yeah, he'll be 22 this year.
Yeah, 22 years old. At 25, he's going to join the 100 million club.
Yeah, he is having had an incredible season last year, and I don't think that maybe it's a byproduct of the Broncos season last year. Maybe it's a byproduct of just where the Broncos have been the last few seasons, but not enough discussion of Patrick Surtain's season last year. I think overall, from even us covering the team to close the season and the national perspective as well. We got Jacob Foster coming in here with the support, the silent one. Jacob getting us kicked off on this Tuesday, helping us out here with the Stars. Thank you so much, Jacob. We appreciate you. Hopefully you had a great weekend, and hopefully you're enjoying your July. Hopefully it's not too hot where you are.
No, and I think I did unmute. I was pouring some coffee. Sometimes that sounds like I'm going to the bathroom, so I don't like the microphone picking that up. What's going on over there, Scott? Pouring coffee. What do you mean? Surtain, you talk about some of the younger corners. Denzel Ward is still 25 years old, just turned 25 years old.
Yep.
Pat Surtain, Denzel Ward, AJ Terrell, I think is 23, will probably turn 24 this year with the Atlanta Falcons. Some kind of the next generation of corners, and Pat Surtain is definitely in there for sure, without a doubt. And again, Jacob Foster, thank you so much, sir. Appreciate the support as always.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll get back to little Patrick Surtain, but saying hello to some people coming in here saying weather is perfect here in Ecuador. Good morning, Broncos country, and the best Broncos pod. Thank you so much, Mandango. That's really nice of you to say. I love breakfast with you folks. Well, hopefully you're enjoying it. With Natalie and I, my wife, just moved into a new rental house in Seattle, on a different area of Seattle. So we're checking out the new breakfast spots, and found a pretty good little breakfast spot on Sunday morning before going to a movie after that. So really love, we're big breakfast aficionados here. So appreciate that. I think an underrated part of breakfast, guy, we never really talk about it. But the side potatoes, what they do with their, the starch option there. Because this place that we went to had incredible, I guess, breakfast potatoes or something, like the red russet potatoes. Not enough appreciation for the hash brown / potato option in breakfast.
Yeah, I think we're sleep aficionados in this house, so it's hard to get everybody up and moving if we don't already have games. So I got to roll my family out of bed. Hey, you got to get up 6:30 in the morning. You got softball, baseball, soccer, something going on. So my wife makes breakfast though. She'll make herself a nice breakfast. I don't have the patience for that. I'm like, all right, cup of yogurt. Here we go. Cup of water. I spend about as much time making my coffee as anything. That's about it.
That's an art, though, for sure. Also found out one of my neighbors is a Starbucks coffee roaster. Works at one of the big roasteries, so kind of cool. Really living the Seattle dream up here. Tyler Rogers coming in saying, good morning, happy to catch you live. Good to see you. Also, one of our favorites, Peter Middleton, saying it's good to be on here. Smiley face. Hopefully it's not too hot where you are, Peter. We appreciate you. C. Beeston in the house saying, morning, everyone. And Peter Middleton saying, honest, hottest day in UK for a long time. It's going to be hot there. Yeah. And I know that they don't have a lot of air conditioning there in the UK because it hasn't been needed, but kind of like in Seattle, things are changing there for the worst, unfortunately. And Tyler Rogers coming in saying, remind me what EPA means again, just joined. EPA is an acronym for expected points added. It is a all encompassing stat. Honestly, I prefer EPA per play because this is more of a stat that is accumulated over time. Like if you have a threshold, but like this is just it's like war over time. You accumulate the data, but I think that EPA plays a little bit more telling for a obviously play-by-play perspective. But Surtain had a great season last year, and the negative here for a defensive player, you want to have a negative EPA as a defensive player, positive for the offensive guys, negative for the defensive. So negative 21.8 is incredible. And also just another thing, when we bring up this next gen stat stuff, I got to gripe just a little bit. Why is this stuff not accessible even behind a paywall? Like I would kill to get some of this next gen data. And I know a lot of it is because the NFL teams pay a lot of money to have this
that might
information.
Be why right there. Who's footing the bill for it? And they might not want it out there.
Yeah, I mean, this is incredible stuff. And I know that like college teams are using it more and more. There's been a few interviews where it's been like Alabama's athletic trainers and the GPS data that they're using to train players that are like, it's so beyond what we do as metrics for the combine and stuff, these athletic testing measurements that we're in the Stone Age compared to what these teams have right now. It's frustrating as somebody who loves data and all that stuff as well. But Surtain, absolutely incredible last season. Don't think we've spoken enough about how good he's been. Let's keep saying hello to some people in the comment section here. Peter coming back in saying Ward was a surprise 4th pick, but a very sensible one for the Browns after all the injuries to Chubb. Allen or Nelson would have been good picks too. You're mixing up, I think. No, not mixing up 2 different drafts. That's all the same draft, 2018. So, yeah, they all would have been good picks. Obviously, Josh Allen is the best pick you could have made there. But yeah, it was a good one for them, no doubt. I think it's kind of funny, though. I mean, Denzel Ward, great season, been a great player. Probably the 2nd best cornerback in that draft, right? That was also a Jair Alexander draft class, if I'm not mistaken.
It was. He went 18th to the Green Bay Packers, and Derwin James was in there. Vita Vea went 12th overall. Minka Fitzpatrick at safety. Josh Rosen at 10.
Yeah. God.
Roquan Smith, number 8. Josh Allen, 7. Quentin Nelson, 6. Bradley Chubb, 5. Sam Darnold, 3. And they traded up to get Sam Darnold.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, man. I mean, that's the thing about the quarterback, right? It's that if you don't have one, you're sunk. But man, a lot of risk.
Yeah, but know what sinks you? Giving up 4 picks to go get a quarterback that can't play. That's what sinks you.
Okay, you're right.
Back 5 years.
Sinking's the wrong word. You're not going anywhere without a quarterback, but you're not getting sunk. Not having you're
already
selecting the wrong quarterback.
You're not coming off the bottom. You're drowning and flailing around, and it was just the evaluation on that was mind-boggling. I'm like, what'd you pay on him? $100 million? Give me 0.001% of that. I'll save you $1 million just to not be dumb.
Yeah, personally, this is again coming back to team building stuff. I don't mind the swing at the quarterback position. The issue is when you sit on too long, hoping on what you aren't seeing. So I think you look at the Arizona Cardinals taking Josh Rosen at 12 overall, I think, that year, and the very next year taking Kyler Murray. Hallelujah, God bless. Keep swinging the bat. But when you sit there and waste 4 or 5 years on somebody who's a statistical bottom quarterback, you are might as well start digging your own grave for the coaching staff in the front office there. Luke Wright coming in. Good morning to you, Luke Wright. And Mark Schrader coming in from Texas, down south there, saying hotter than blazes here. They say 107 today, hundreds through the forecast, almost 10 stars per degree. LOL. Wow. Mark, we appreciate. Maybe we should get a little bit hotter down there. No, we appreciate you, Mark.
You're cool. Plenty hot. You're plenty hot, Mark. Appreciate you coming in with the stars and the support. You and Jacob are our Facebook superstars for Broncos for breakfast. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And Jeremy has a good point in here. It says, with Surtain last year and Russ this year, are there any Broncos fans still pining for Justin Fields? Didn't think so. No. That said, I won't change how I feel in hindsight. Again, we're operating without you're playing the long game as a general manager. I said at the beginning, this draft will be graded based on how good Pat Surtain is and or how good Justin Fields is. If Pat Surtain turns out to be a superstar, you're not worried about Justin Fields. If he isn't that great, then you start looking a little bit, where does Justin Fields end up? So I'm not going to change that based on hindsight, but because I wanted Justin Fields in that spot. Over the long haul, though, playing the long game based on who's going to be available, we're still probably a year away. I got to get rid of this coach as a general manager. I don't want to hand over my prize rookie quarterback to this guy. Then of course this was absolutely the right moves. Assuming Russell Wilson stays healthy, blah, blah, blah. All the assumptions there for it. Russell Wilson playing at the level that he is accustomed to playing and Patrick Surtain becoming a superstar has been pretty good work from Mr. George Payton, without a doubt.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And I was definitely for this scheme, for the Vic Fangio scheme specifically, more off coverage. I was thinking maybe Surtain wasn't as good in the top 10 as trading back, get an extra first round pick and taking a Caleb Farley or a Greg Newsome. I'm happy to say now that, hello, Nick, Patrick Surtain scheme independent, transcendent, I guess is the word there. And Vic Fangio's scheme actually was starting to change a little bit last year, where you're seeing one cornerback essentially play man coverage on an island, running that zone straight back with a match quarters defense and, triplets or whatever on the other side. So, happy to be emphatically wrong on that one. Also, tune changed when Caleb Farley's back stuff came out, and the fact that Caleb Farley was 3 years older than Patrick Surtain, which at the cornerback position, injuries and age matter almost as much as any position out there. And that's something also I want to talk about Patrick Surtain here. Let's say hello to a few people coming in here. CC, love CC. Where's the curly hair gang? But I feel like CC had a picture for a while. Now it's just a big old CC. What's going on? Morning, Nick and Scott and Broncos country. Hope you're all doing great. Michael Ronquillo, of course. Good morning, Nick and Scott and Broncos for breakfast. Great to see you. Bama X. Good morning, Broncos country. Fantastic to see you in here. We always love to see you. And let's keep it going here. So talking about Patrick Surtain here, we and maybe this is me making up for being a doubter the month prior to leading up to the drafts, like 2 months prior, banging the quarterback drum before that. But big time on the Patrick Surtain hype now. It's not a guarantee that he will be as good this season as he was last year. And the big thing is injury. Obviously, the scheme's changing. There's a lot of reasons to expect him to be as good, if not better, than last season. But the thing about the cornerback position is that it is so dependent on being, and everyone knock on wood and pray to whatever football gods you have, but it's so dependent on being healthy. And, you have a turf toe, a slight tweak of the hamstring, your form drops massively at the cornerback position because it's such a reactionary position. It's like soccer, right? If you have just a tweak, you're not as fluid out there in open space. So not a guarantee that he'll be better than last season. I think it's fine to hope that, but just want to say, I think it's not always a transcendent, or a linear progression for a player over their career.
Couple points on this. One, injury is a concern with everybody.
Yeah, but
two, I don't think he's got but every cornerback. I mean, every cornerback has. Yes. So that's universal. That's nothing that goes specifically to Surtain, because I think he's got a pretty good injury history through his career.
Yeah.
Two, even if he has a slight drop from last year, he's still really good.
Yeah.
And three, I think he'll be put in more positions to succeed, where he can make more plays and not, I wouldn't say hide him or protect him, because he was thrown out there. He was there, but where he's going to be given a little bit more freedom to freelance a little bit and maybe come off of coverages and read stuff and have a little more trust. I know that's a big buzzword going around Broncos country right now, is trust. Saw that big time with Lloyd Cushenberry and some recent quotes we can get into towards the end if we have time. So I don't expect him to take a step backwards at all, because even if he's picked on a little bit more or whatever, it takes a step back in the statistics or whatnot. I think he'll have more impact plays too, because he'll have a little bit more freedom to freelance a little bit, to go and make plays. So I'm expecting a real good season for him.
Yeah, rightfully so. It'll be exciting to see what he can do this year. And I'm really excited to see what he can look like. We got Herb Davis coming in saying, hey, some people feel that our schedule sucks because it starts off easy and then it gets hard. I disagree. Your thoughts? I like it how it is, because there's so much newness on the Denver Broncos this season. New scheme, new quarterback, new relationships, new chemistry, new offensive line coach, new right tackle, new defense, et cetera, et cetera. I would rather have it be a little bit easier early and kind of get your footing there, where you have a little bit more margin for error early on, just kind of figuring out who you are, what works, what doesn't work. And then when you're starting to hopefully hit your groove by the end of the season, you know who you are. everything is second nature. The chemistry's there, et cetera, et cetera. What works and what doesn't work when the Nathaniel Hackett outside zone RPO centric pass game with what Russell Wilson wants to do. So I don't think it sucks. I do wish that, who are we playing? The NFC West. That's a little bit unfortunate to get paired up with them this season in comparison to, like, God, it'd be great if we were playing the NFC East, considering we already have to play the AFC West. In the AFC South, we are playing the AFC. No, we're not. We are. Yeah, we are. Because we play the Colts and we're playing the Jags and over in London and all that. So that's
NFC South. That would be nice. Oh, there's a 3-1 at worst.
Yeah, for sure. So I like the schedule, how it sets up. But if the Broncos are going where we want to go, I guess I'm happy they don't have the Chiefs schedule, who play like the first 8 games of the year against playoff teams or something crazy. But if the Broncos are going to go where we all hope they will go, you're going to have to beat the best. So it is what it is.
And Herb, I agree with Nick. I think it's good to get off to a fast start, and that's possible, especially with all the newness, all of the hope. And then if I can almost write the headlines for you right now. Let's see. Let's mark the date, 7/19 Broncos for breakfast. And we'll come back to this when we see this headline after their first loss, maybe even 2 of 3 when the schedule gets a little tougher. After the Broncos get off to a hot start, we were who they thought they were, the Broncos for real, blah, blah, blah. Get off to a hot start, get your confidence going, get everybody feeling good about things. And then even if you go 500 in the last 8 games and you finish 11-6, you're in good shape and you're battle tested. You're coming through the crucible. As long as everybody stays healthy, you're not going in. I'd rather start that way and then go 500 and have a couple losses towards the end of the season where people are thinking, okay, we're not as good as we think we are. We need to still buckle up, other than going 4-4 in the first 8 games and then playing cream puffs down the stretch and getting this false sense of security and going into the playoffs against somebody that's battle tested and getting your brains kicked in your first game because you haven't been playing at that level. So I love the schedule, Herb. I think it's a great one.
Yeah, it sets up as well as you could hope. I believe. I guess I'd have to look at it again. I wish we were playing. Do the Broncos end the season with the Chargers at home? I think that's the case. So I don't know. I don't think I'd change anything about it. I think it's a pretty good schedule overall, and hopefully one that the Broncos can take advantage of, having the last place schedule in the AFC West. I guess the big bummer in the schedule is that it's unfortunate that do they play the Ravens? I can't remember. There's one team that finished last place last season that it's like, they're not the worst team in their division anymore. I wish we'd have gotten
that
this
about
flipped.
Most of the AFC North. I'm not even sure whichever one that is. I've always said I think that's the toughest division year in and year out. Just they just beat the hell out of you. The Steelers and Ravens. Oh, the Steelers aren't that good. The Ravens are they're tough. Even if you win that game, it's hard to play the next one because they're gonna you certainly don't want to play it on a slow week. Before we move off of here, just going back to the draft real quick, just looking over it, it'd be hard. It was going to be hard to mess up a pick in the top 15. There was a good draft at the top.
Yeah.
J.C. Horn, battled an injury a little bit, but
that's what I'm talking about.
Waddle, Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, Micah Parsons, Rashawn Slater. We said all along, either you've got the hope for your quarterback of the future or you're drafting an exciting player. We weren't wrong.
No.
Most of the guys that came ended up being really, really good. Coming into this year, we said this was a year to have depth of picks 50 to 200 were as exciting as 1 to 50. So we'll see how that shakes out. Could be completely wrong, but I like our chances. I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I just want to bring this one up in hindsight from Jeremy Shawn. He says, in hindsight, I'm glad Peyton held out on his convictions and didn't buckle to the desperation. Me too. Absolutely. The one that, Scott, I'll ask you again, because we've had multiple conversations about this, but we haven't talked about it in a while. You and I both were of the opinion that if the Broncos didn't take a quarterback at 9 overall, we thought the best choice would be to see if somebody could trade back and then take who the Ravens ended up taking in Odafe Oweh and get an extra first-round pick. Now we're playing, sliding doors here. If that happens, you have your 2023 first-round pick probably, because you're sending both the Giants pick the Bears pick and the Broncos pick at 9 over to the Seahawks for Russell Wilson. Maybe it doesn't happen that way. Things change with that. But I think I can comfortably say now where I'm at, even though Odafe Oweh is really good and been good to have the extra first-round pick, Surtain looks that good at a valuable position that young that I'm okay, not having the hindsight of like, okay, we could have taken Odafe Owe and gotten a first round pick. I think honestly, I'll take Surtain, even though Owe looks like an incredible player right now.
I think Odafe Owe was worthy of a pick in that same spot. So half a dozen. Then it comes down to personal preference and team needs to a certain extent.
True.
If you were to trade them straight up, I don't think both teams would be mad. That would be the sign of a good trade. If we just traded Pat Surtain for Odafe Owe, you'd be mad, and so would they. That's a pretty good sign of a good trade. And if you were able to pick up another first round pick out of it, even with hindsight, I'd probably still do that deal. But again, I'm biased towards a big edge. I love, and I wanted Surtain in that pick. I'll have to dig it up. The very first time I was on this channel, I said, Pat Surtain, that's your guy.
Yep.
And talking about philosophies and scouting philosophies. And, I know you were a little more hesitant for scheme fit, but I just remind you that schemes change rapidly. Yep. They're going to go for the best available player. And if you think that's Caleb Farley, fine, but you're not really drafting for scheme. You're not. General managers aren't thinking like that because they're changing out their coordinators every 2 freaking years. They're looking for best available.
Yeah. And the other thing that I don't think I put enough emphasis on and understanding now where I'm at is that every defensive coordinator in the league, if they could, would run cover one. It's so hard to do that with the players because the rules are tilted toward the offensive players. But if you have 2 shutdown cornerbacks and enough pass rush up front, and then it's like, it's your go-to defense, even with the Broncos last season. And Patrick Surtain is a true island cornerback that can play press. I think I underrated his fluidity and athleticism and off coverage. And if you can play cover one, that's pretty much my guys are better than your guys defense. And that's been the case for 40 years. I mean, there's been a lot of changes in the NFL, but still everything goes back to that cover one defense. It's what the Broncos did in that 2015 team when they had the no-fly zone. And you need multiple Patrick Surtains to be able to do that. But having one is incredible. And also last year, the way the defense changed, essentially he was playing an island cornerback position out there, and incredible, really, really good. So go ahead.
And part of that is my SEC bias. Bias is what shapes our personalities. People say, well, I'm not biased. Yes, you are. It's impossible not to be biased. But being biased doesn't mean you're wrong. I am biased by the strength of the SEC and the battle-tested nature of having the best football players week in and week out and going to practice against them week in and week out, day after day, and excelling. I trust that more. I do. I trust the guy with the pedigree of Pat Surtain coming from Alabama, playing at that level in practice every day, coached by, I think Kirby Smart had already left, but still in a Nick Saban group. I think Kirby probably had him for a couple of years. No, Kirby's been there.
Kirby's been gone for a
while now. Time flies. He's been there since like 2016. I forget how fast time goes. That I trusted him more than a kid coming from the ACC. That's not Clemson. Playing at that level. So that was part of it too. But I do trust Jacob Foster to come in and give us love and support. Just again, you make us speechless. You're going to turn us into the silent ones. There's some talk in here about the fall off at the cornerback position. I kind of want to go. I don't know if I can find the original one. I think it was Bama X here. Speaking of Bama, says Champ Bailey comes to mind when you mentioned drop off with corners and getting injured. And it's not just Champ. It's 99.9% of them hit 31, 32 years old, and there's a massive drop off because the margins are so fine at the very highest level. We're talking about, the upper 1/1,000,000th of athletes in the world that we're talking here. And even a guy who's just on the border of, an average NFL player is still one of the best athletes in the world.
Yep.
So having a little bit of a drop off, and I just want to give a shout out to Darrell Green, because Darrell Green played at a high level until his late 30s as a cornerback with the Washington Redskins. And just what an absolute freak of nature Darrell Green was to be able to play at that level for so long. He was getting in races with guys when he was 36, 37 years old and still smoking them. So I think Darrell Green, kind of like Hakeem Olajuwon, for me, is one of the most underrated superstars of their respective sports. Darrell Green was the man.
And I want to come back to your point about injury at the cornerback position. And this is something that is a main driver for a study that Pro Football Focus did recently, where a singular great dominant cornerback creates more value than a single great dominant edge rusher in a single season, according to a study they've done. But year to year, the cornerback is extremely volatile. Their form is like this from season to season, where an edge rusher, let's just put a number on it. You're getting 25 value from the cornerback in that elite season, but in the next season, you're only getting 10. Dominant edge rusher is 20 year after year after year. So if team building perspective, you'd rather have that edge rusher, but if you're picking one season, the one dominant cornerback, even though they're volatile, more volatile season to season, provides a little bit more volume. It all comes back to just how much being healthy, 100% form matters for that space position of the cornerback.
I just think there's 5 receivers out there where there's only one quarterback. There's only one ball. If I'm an edge, I got one guy I got to take out. That's it.
Yep.
If I'm a corner, I shut down their number one receiver, but they got 4 other weapons out there that they can get the ball to.
Yep.
Or run the ball, or do these other things. So, and I mean a quarterback run.
Yep.
Great. I had a corner who shut down. Let's see, Roddy White. Michael Vick ran for 225 yards. Well, I rather would have had one of the Bosa boys or somebody going after and trying to get into Michael Vick's kitchen.
Yep.
So for me, that's the big difference is a corner can do his job. If a corner has an outstanding game, you might not even hear his name.
Yeah.
He's blanketed his guy. If the edge has the outstanding game, he's wreaked havoc on an offense, and he's changed the game.
And not to go too far down this path, listen to an interview with the head of analytics for the Los Angeles Rams. Would have been this offseason. I remember it on one of my dog walks. It's a lot of times I consume my football information from the people that are smarter than I. But he talked about it being systems and the coverage units being the first to fail system, where pass rushing units are the first to succeed system. And by a first to fail system, it's the same as the offensive line. It's similar to the secondary, and the wide receiver groups are the same as a pass rush. You only need one dominant guy to win, and the whole unit wins, which is your first to succeed system. Your first to fail system, every single person has to do their job and succeed to win. It's why that there was an argument, or a discussion on Twitter a few weeks ago where people were like, would you rather have a top 10 wide receiver or a top 10 offensive lineman? Top 10 offensive lineman is still dependent on 4 other guys doing their job. Your top 10 wide receiver, more impactful because all he has to do is win his matchup and everybody wins across the unit. So it's really interesting to talk about this. We're getting really nerdy right now with team building, but it's fun to talk about.
And part of that assumption is of those would you rather, the assumption is almost like, well, the other guys out there are garbage.
Yeah.
And they're not. It's like, okay, would you rather have assuming everybody else is a 0 war? That's why I like talking about the war is everybody else is negative. It's because that I feel like, Nick, that's what happens.
Yep.
It's like when you have the would you rather discussions, it's almost like, well, then the other one's a complete negative. Okay, I've got Tony Baselli at left tackle and then a bunch of stiffs on the right side. Well, Tony Baselli's toast. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what he does because the quarterback's going to get killed. But again, I've used this story a bunch of times. I'll say it one more time. When I first started covering recruiting, I called a kid that played on both sides of the ball. I was like, well, which do you like better? He's like, defense. I'm like, really? Why? He says, because on defense, I can end a play. He says, the game's in my hands on defense. I'm like, that makes sense. It's hard to, that's why every single rule change in the last 50 years has benefited the offense because it is hard to play offense. If you ever go to a practice and they change center or change quarterbacks, it takes like 5 snaps just to get a center snap exchange right, or without somebody jumping off sides or something like that. Because again, 10 guys can do their job. 1 guy fails. The first to fail system, as you say, it's a good way of putting that. The play's dead. 10 guys fall down on defense, and you go and sack the quarterback. You just won the play. Doesn't matter. So it is different like that.
Yeah, but obviously it's a little bit different too. Like we're not getting into the specifics where if you have one, no doubt, top 3 cornerback, it makes everybody else's job easier because he can shoulder more of the load and everything. But it's interesting, and as Tyler says, the ultimate team sport. Good morning, Tyler Rogers. Without a doubt. Yep.
Without a doubt. It is the most team sport of team sports there is. I can't even, I've watched them all. I've played most of them, and there's nothing that compares to football when it comes to the team sport, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I do like about baseball, where it is an individual sport, every single person is exposed in an individual matchup. So you can't be, you can't always be just one person. You keep, like, we can see it in baseball right now. The Angels have Ohani and Trout, and they are still absolute garbage, even though they have two of the best players in football. So it's weird, different. It's such
but if you throw Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling, 4 out of 7 games, you can win a World Series.
Absolutely, yeah.
So a hot pitcher, a hot goalie. In soccer, you get a hot goalie or a defender that's an attacker. Baseball, a pitcher. It's about the pitching. Baseball. We know all about basketball. It's all about a couple of individuals and who you surround them with. But football, it is the ultimate team sport, without a doubt. Because even the best player, who you might consider the greatest of all time, even if you say Tom Brady, he's watching from the sidelines half the time. Half the time he's depending on his defense when he's not even on the field, let alone all of the dependencies he has on his own side of the ball with offensive line, running backs, and receivers. Ultimate team sport, Tyler, without a doubt.
And want to say hello to Benjamin Flores. Howdy, fellas. I don't know why I don't get alerts anymore, but I always want to make sure to check in. Have a good one. Well, we're live Tuesday and Thursday morning. So make sure you're checking in. And also he says, good, and go Broncos. Thank you for that, Benjamin. We were concerned there for a second. Lawrence coming in saying, well, guys, stars are not working for me today, but I will try to figure it out. And I think you did figure it out. There. Half the show I missed just trying to show love. Well, thank you. Now I got to catch up later. That's okay. You can go back, listen twice. Maybe you'll pick up on some idiocracy coming from me here. I also want to talk, coming back here to Patrick Surtain before we get on out of here. This was from Ari Mariov, who's a recent addition to Pro Football Focus. And he talked about it in a bit here on Pro Football Focus about how Patrick Surtain is his pick for the next big superstar in the NFL, essentially, is what he's getting at here. So I'll just play this, and then we can kind of discuss what we think about it. But really, just, heaping praise onto Patrick Surtain. So let me know if you can hear this.
I have Patrick Surtain going to the next level, going into the superstar level. That's where I'm looking at over here, because one of the things that you mentioned with Jeff Okudah, coaches will tell you cornerback is one of the tougher positions to transition from college to the NFL. The game is so fast. The offensive players, in a way, have more advantages than a defender with the rules. But Surtain made it look so easy last year. And when you hear some of the quotes coming out of Denver, for example, Justin Simmons, one of the most respected players in the league, Broncos safety, he comes out and says, at the end of last year, I didn't even have to worry about his side of the field. That's not a fluff comment. That's like somebody saying, okay, we have something special here. And he's right. At the end of last year, Vic Fangio was essentially playing Surtain on his own island in man coverage against some of these top receivers in the NFL. He only allowed over 60 yards once last season. George Paton, their GM, got some heat last year when he made that pick, taking Surtain over a quarterback. Well, look at them now. They have Russell Wilson at quarterback. They have Surtain, who is still only 22 years old. And I think he has the potential to not only be a Pro Bowler this year, but also be in that all-pro discussion there in Denver. So it's a pick who everyone might know his name, but I think it's someone who takes the leap and enters that superstar territory this year in Denver.
That's what you want, baby. Broncos are back. We're in the relevant discussion, and national media is starting to get on the Patrick Surtain and the Broncos hype, and rightfully so. I don't think enough people watched Bronco football last year, maybe to their own benefit. But Surtain, if you go back and watch him last year, incredible season. I'm really excited to see what he can do. Also excited to see Broncos Sunrise coming in here with $20 saying late but happy. That's what it's all about. Thank you so much. Also, I appreciate the Broncos Sunrise perspective here, because that's perfect for Broncos for breakfast. So hopefully we'll see you again Thursday morning. Hopefully you're doing well. Also, we're excited for whenever it's Broncos 17-0 again when the season starts back up. Lawrence Rivera coming in saying we will have to have this team firing on all cylinders if we don't want to be last in the division, because a quarterback can't carry us the whole season. But yeah, I don't get alerts either. I don't think Facebook does alerts. I think YouTube is the alert side.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I see them in my little bells that so-and-so has started an alert, but I've also noticed the viewership on Facebook has dropped off massively. So something may have changed with Facebook. So, set your schedule, or, come over to YouTube. Google and Facebook are always in competition. And Broncos sunrise, it feel your name has never been more apt. It does feel like a sunrise for the Denver Broncos. Definitely not a sunset. This is on the way up. This is the new dawn. Just thank you for your support. And again, I think the Broncos sunrise has never been more apropos. And Lawrence, I don't know why you're getting the letting people talk you into thinking that this team is Russell Wilson and that's it. That might explain the Green Bay Packers, where you're talking about it seems like it's Aaron Rodgers trying to make a bunch of ham and eggers look really good on the offensive side of the ball.
Packers defense is awesome, though.
Exactly. That's why I said the offensive side of the ball. But this has been a team that's considered to be a quarterback away. This is a team that's been saying that is being held back by the quarterback, not being propped up by the quarterback. This team isn't being propped up by Russell Wilson. It's being accentuated. It's being accelerated by Russell Wilson. It's being used properly by Russell Wilson. That's the hope. Not that, okay, if he's not a superstar, this team, you don't have to be a superstar for this team to be good. Again, if he went 26-7 in a bad season for touchdown interceptions, somewhere in there, I might be off by 1 or 2.
Yeah.
But he should easily crack 30 touchdowns, and if he keeps the interceptions down and keeps the defenses honest and gets rid of those stacked boxes, your weapons that we've been talking about for, at least for me, for 14 months are going to excel. And the defense looks really good. There's a lot of, we just spent 40 minutes talking about Pat Surtain.
Yeah, and I think the final point we want to get to here, first I want to say hello to Steve coming in here saying, good morning, Broncos country. Good to see you, Steve. Hopefully you had a good weekend. Also, the notorious GLP saying, hey, Nick and Scott, good morning, Broncos country. Go Broncos. Let's ride. Thank you so much, Gary. Reasons for, I spent a lot of the show earlier saying, it's not a guarantee that Surtain will linearly progress this season, because linear progression is a myth. It's only seen in video games where, he's at year 2, he's +7 in awareness. That doesn't work like that in the real world. But there is reason to think that Surtain could be even better this season. And I think the two biggest things here, I think it was somebody earlier mentioned it, and I think maybe it was Peter Middleton saying the pass rush should be better in Denver this season. Should be better in Denver. We've talked about it on here a lot. It's probably the most volatile positional group on the team, because if Randy Gregory and Bradley Chubb play up to their potential and stay healthy, you're talking about a top 10 pass rushing duo in football, in my opinion, talent wise. But those guys have not shown a history of being available, and when they have been on the field, have been dinged and their form has dropped. So very concerning there. And also you have questions about the Baron Browning. How good is Jonathan Cooper? Is he just a 3 at best? Nick Benito, is he more of a very super sub kind of player? A lot of questions there. So in theory, Surtain should have it easier this year with better opportunities because the pass rush is better. But we need to see it to believe. I need to see it to believe it.
There's enough bodies there that you think someone's going to step up and be the guy. You just mentioned a bunch. There's a hope. There's a hope there. But you're thinking, okay, if my worst case scenario is Malik Reed, who seems to get 5 or 6 sacks a year, okay, well, that's not horrible. Again, you might not get yeses out of all of them, but you should get yeses out of enough of those guys. We just rattled off 6 names, Nick.
Yeah.
That you should be able to get a yes out of some of those guys. Now, again, kind of like the quarterback position, you mentioned the draft, you have a problem if they stick by a guy too long. That's where it could end up hurting you a little bit. If you end up, a guy's not getting it done, battling an injury, trying to fight through it, and you hold by him too long and not next man up, that could hold you back a little bit. But you just feel with all of the guys that you mentioned, there's enough bodies there that the pass rush is going to get better. The pass rush, for none other reason that they're going to be more aggressive. Now, on the flip side of that, they're going to give up more big plays. There's going to be more big plays, more chunk yardage plays going against you this year. Okay. There should be more turnovers and more sacks and more opportunities for your better offense to have the ball. I'm okay with that, right?
Yeah.
We already said hello to GLP, but why not say hello again? So hello again, GLP. Thank you for the support, my friend.
Thank you so much. And before we start wrapping up, Colin Wood coming in saying a question he's had for a while. What do we think about Hackett's offensive philosophy came from a team that was heavily dependent on Rodgers' heroics. When you have a quarterback like that, obviously you should lean on the quarterback. It'd be an issue if you were trying to, this is our system. This is what we're doing. Don't go out there and do what you do. So it is a question. The other thing that's a big question about Hackett for me is that he's been somewhat of a offensive chameleon in his career to date, because what they did in Jacksonville with Doug Marrone and that, Blake Bortles, Leonard Fournette offense was extremely different than what we saw with Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers with the Green Bay Packers. So what is this offense going to look like? Excellent question. I mean, I think it was Tim Patrick months ago that said, we're working in an offense that's never been seen before because it's trying to meld what Russell Wilson would like to do with what Hackett is like to do. But what is that? Honestly, this is the cop-out answer, but I need to see it on the field to really understand that. And also just, calling myself out of this one, I am much further along in my understanding of defensive scheming and philosophy than I am the offensive side of the ball. I've always liked defense a little bit more, so I tend to read that, but I'm reading defense at a 5th grade level where my offense is maybe at a 3rd grade level.
That's better than most of us. So I still do it at the, talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old. So, the old Denzel Washington, Philadelphia quote, explain this to me like I'm an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Then I'll understand at best. So on that note, I think it's probably about time to get us out of here, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, we'll be live again over on Scott's channel tomorrow, Forging the Falcons. Not sure what we'll talk about yet, but it's always a good time. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at our pod account, Twitter account at BFB_pod. And of course, at Mile High Huddle. Follow us on Facebook, at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Subscribe, like, and share if you haven't already. And also, Apple Podcast folks, leave your 5-star review for a chance to win some gear every single month. And Scott, while you are filling in the gap here, I'm going to pull up a couple reviews that we had come in recently on iTunes that were really nice and appreciative, calling out Broncos for Breakfast specifically.
Yeah, it was nice. I'm gonna steal your thunder on this and say thank you to Jeremy, because I saw one from Jeremy Sean come in. So Nick, you can hit that one. But again, not just Broncos for Breakfast. We'll be back on my channel talking Forging the Falcons tomorrow, and we talk all kinds of people. It's not just Falcons talk. If you've ever watched us, But tonight, don't forget, what is today? Tuesday. So Mile High Insiders
building the Broncos
tonight at 6, and then remember at 2:00 Mountain Time. On the it's on the website, it's on the app, the Mile High Sports is Chad and Zach's new show, the Mile High Huddle show on what's Denver's flagship's name? Do you know? Anyone?
The Broncos. What are you asking? Sorry, I was looking up the iTunes review.
Way to pick me up there. They're on a radio station, but it's like 98.1. I looked it up yesterday.
Mile High Sports.
Mile High Sports Radio is they're on there at 2:00 every day now, Monday through Friday, on the Mile High Huddle show on Mile High Sports Radio.
Yeah, it'll be great.
It's available online and via the app, so you can listen from anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple of reviews here coming in on iTunes that I wanted to read out here. It's kind of like a free super chat. But first we got Jeremy Sean's, thank you, Jeremy, saying, really enjoy listening to all the pods. I like that MHH has various hosts with a variety of styles and skill sets. As an early riser, my favorite is the Broncos for Breakfast. Nick and Scott do a tremendous job looking at things objectively and analytically, all while having fun. All the shows do a great job of interacting with listeners and are very gracious for the support they receive. Keep up the great work. We also have OROD15 coming in saying, I listen to the podcast every day at work. I go in very early, and it's always nice seeing there's a new podcast to listen to when I wake up. And finally, James Crackcorn, great name, saying, I've been listening every day for about 2 years now. Living in New Jersey, it's often difficult to find folks to talk Broncos with. This scratches the itch and keeps me informed on all the latest Broncos news. So if you guys haven't done so yet, make sure you head to Apple iTunes, find the Huddle Up podcast, and leave us a 5-star
Huddle podcast.
Excuse me, what did I say?
You said the Huddle Up.
Mile High Huddle podcast. I typed in Huddle Up. That's how it showed up on my feed there. But yep, absolutely. I think it actually is underneath Huddle Up on the name. But anyway, we appreciate all you guys coming in here. You guys are great. I'll see you guys tonight on Building the Broncos, not Mile High Insiders.
You're one of these shows. You have to check your hat. That's why I said it's a good thing you don't have a hat that says, protected by Smith & Wesson or something like that. That's what you'd read for the show.
But we appreciate you guys so much. Also, hello, Kaylee on Yo, coming in late here, but good to see you. You guys have a great rest of your Tuesday. Hopefully it's cools down a bit for you. Not too hard of a week. And I will see you guys later tonight. But until then, don't forget to be kind, choose kindness and compassion. Go Broncos.